Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nehemiah. I saw a post on LinkedIn and X by the creator of FastAPI where he was saying that server-sent events are now built into FastAPI. In the past, I had to create this from scratch. Many of you have seen me building a flight booking engine on this channel, and you remember that episode where I created it from scratch. If you haven't, please check out the playlist in the description, which will lead you to that video where I had to implement this from scratch. And I like this new update, so I want to read through the documentation to understand it even better. So it says server sent events, SSE. You can stream data to the client using server sent events, SSE. This is similar to stream JSON lines, but uses the text event stream format, which is supported natively by browsers using the event source API. Info added in FastAPI 0.135.0. So make sure you have the latest version of FastAPI, or at least the version that has this number as mentioned here. Then it says, what are server-sent events? It says SSE is a standard for streaming data from the server to the client over HTTP. Each event is a small text block with fields like data, event, ID, and retry, separated by blank lines. It looks like this. So this is one event, and this is another event. Okay, so it says data. Okay, in this case, data has name, which is Portogan, then the price, as simple as that. Okay, then it says SSE is commonly used for AI chat streaming, live notifications, logs, and observability, and other cases where the server pushes updates to the client. Okay, so in the flight booking engine, like some of you who have already been on this channel for some time, know that I used it to push updates to the client. And I was using this as notifications for my flight booking engine. So it says tip, if you want to stream binary data, for example, video or audio, check the advanced guide. So we'll not go there. We are new to this thing. Okay, I'll pretend like I'm new, and let's read through the documentation step by step. It says stream SSE with FastAPI. To stream SSE with FastAPI, use yield in your path operation function and set response class equals to event source response. So if you don't know what a path operation is and what response class is, check on this channel. I have a playlist where I walk through FastAPI from zero to the advanced parts. Okay, you learn a lot. So it says import event source response from fastapi.sse. Okay, so you can see it says requires Python 3.10. On the first line, they have from collections.abc import async, iterable, and iterable. Then they have from FastAPI import FastAPI. Then the line of interest is what has been highlighted, saying from FastAPI.sse import event source response. Then from Pindatic import base model. Okay, so that's the first thing they want us to know, that the first step, okay, is to import event source from FastAPI.sse. So I will have my code here in main.py. I'll remove this. I think let's go through the documentation, then at the end I will paste code on my right, and then we shall be able to test what is going on. Okay, so from FastAPI.sse import event source response. Okay, I can just paste one thing at a time. Okay, so yeah, that's it. But let's leave the code for now and concentrate on the docs. All right, next up, you can see we have from Pydantic import base model, an instance of FastAPI. Then we have a class item, okay, which is a base model and has a name and description. The name is a string. The description can be a string or none. And we have a list of items, which are simply items, okay? An item, simply instances of this item base model. And then we have the path operation decorator here, okay? And we have response class being equals to event source response. take note of this, okay? It's what they mentioned up here. It says to stream SSE with FastAPI, use yield in your path operation function. Where they're using yield, it's here. They're saying yield item. Okay, that's the first thing they mention. Then after that, they say and set response underscore class to event source response, which is this line here. Okay, in the path operation decorator, response class equals to event source response. Then they say import event source response from FastAPI.sse. So that's this line. Now when I continue, okay, it say code below omitted, but it's a very reasonable class. Here it says async def SSE items, okay, will return a list of async iterables, as simple as that, okay. Then for every item, okay, in the item list, we yield an item at a time, as simple as that. So they're saying each yielded item is encoded as JSON and sent in the data field of an SSE event. So like they showed us up here. Okay, we have the data field. Okay, data, there's an event field, and there's an ID field and a retry field. For now, we are dealing with the data field. So if I go back down, they're trying to explain that, okay, that every item, okay, is encoded as JSON, and that item will be the value of the data field. So data is the key, and the value will be the JSON encoded item, as simple as that. Then they go on to say, if you declare the return type as async iterable in square brackets, okay, with item in the middle, it says FastAPI will use it to validate, document, and serialize the data using Pindatic. But this is something we expect, okay? Not we expect, but we know about FastAPI. Of course, if this is the first time learning about FastAPI, then this is new, okay? But FastAPI using Pindatic helps us to always validate, document, and serialize things. So let's continue. We have the base model, okay? We typically have the same code, okay? But they're just trying to show us the point of interest, okay? So how FastAPI is able to validate, document, and serialize is using Pindatic, okay? And they're referring to base model, okay? Base model is a class from Pindatic. So you see it says from Pindatic import base model. Using this class, okay, it gives FastAPI superpowers to be able to validate, okay, document, and serialize all our data, okay, following this format, that names should be strings and descriptions should be strings or can be empty, as simple as that, okay. So we have looked at all this code. I will move on. So they have a full file preview here, but I don't want to look at it right now. I want us to go step by step, and then at the end we can look at the full file preview. All right, we have a tip. It says, as Pindatic will serialize it in the Rust side, you will get much higher performance than if you don't declare a return type. Okay, so it is smart that we use Pindatic. Okay, because it's saying as Pindatic will serialize it in the Rust side, you will get much higher performance than if you don't declare a return type. All right, so let's continue. It says name async path operation functions. You can also use regular def functions without async and use yield the same way. So if you look up, this one here is an async def. Okay, so they're saying you can eliminate async. If I go, let's continue reading. It's saying FastAPI will make sure it's run correctly so that it doesn't look, oh my god, what's happening to me? FastAPI will make sure it's run correctly so that it doesn't block the event loop. Nice. As in this case, the function is not async, the return type would be iterable item. So let me read this again. You can also use regular def functions, that means functions without async, and use yield the same way. FastAPI will make sure it's run correctly so that it doesn't block the event loop. As in this case, the function is not async, the return type would be iterable item. So you see this, it is iterable item. Okay, let's continue. So this is the same thing as above. They just omitted code above the path operation function and code below. Let's continue. So they say no return type. You can also omit the return type. FastAPI will use the JSONable encoder to convert the data and send it. Again, if you studied FastAPI from me on this channel using the live streams I had, then this is not new to you, okay? This is simply a recap, and it's a very good recap because we made the JSONable encoder. So yeah, so if you don't use a return type, like in this case, there is no return type, FastAPI will use the JSONable encoder to serialize every item and add it as a value to the data key in the event. All right, let's continue. Says server sent event. If you need to set SSE fields like event, ID, retry, or comment, you can yield server sent event objects instead of plain data. So they're saying import server sent event from fastapi.sse. So right here on this line that they have highlighted, it says from fastapi.sse import event source response and server sent event. So we meant event source response, and server sent event is now the second thing. So this is important because we shall have event, ID, retry, or comment in addition to the data key. So this other code is the same. If we go down here, you see they're saying the type. Look at the type here, okay? Async iterable server sent event, okay? And if you look at the function, okay, on line 1, okay, not line 1, but the first line is in the function, they are saying yield server sent event, and it is being instantiated with an argument of comment having a value stream of item updates, okay? So inside the for loop, they have yield server sent event, but this time the data is the item, okay? And the event is being called item update with an ID of I+1, okay, being converted to a string, and then a retry of 5,000 milliseconds, okay? This won't be seconds, but milliseconds. Then we continue. It says the data field is always encoded as JSON. You can pass any value that can be serialized as JSON, including pandatic models. Okay, this is very, very good. Actually, I would want to do this, okay? In my application which I'm building, when I refactor, I will want to do this, okay? I will want to use server sent event so that the front end gets the data, the event, okay, and the ID and the retry, because these are things that I had to manually build, okay? But this makes life very, very easy. Let's continue. Raw data. It says if you need to send data without JSON encoding, use raw data instead of data. This is useful for sending pre-formatted text, log lines, or special sentinel values like done. Okay. Yeah, what does this word mean? It says a value used to indicate a special condition or state. Okay, I almost bit my tongue trying to pronounce it, but I think it is sentinel. Okay, yeah, so a sentinel is simply a value used to indicate a special condition or state. For example, done, finished, pending, processing, probably stuff like that. Okay, but yeah, this is easy to understand. I'm glad that they had the tooltip that gives you more information about what you're reading. So yeah, good. So in case we don't want JSON and we want to keep the format of text or the format of log lines, okay, it may be having either a pre-formatted form or something just as raw as we need it to be. Okay, that's what comes to my mind, because sometimes you might have things which are raw and you don't want them to be in JSON format. But of course, I'm sure whatever you're going to be sending will have a format. I don't know why I'm thinking about raw as having no format, but in most cases, anything that you're going to send raw, even if it's not JSON, it will have a particular format, because log lines have a particular format. Okay, you have the date or timestamp, the log line, okay, the log level, the actual log message, okay, stuff like that. So let's continue. They give an example. Okay, so this code is all the same like we have been seeing before. Okay, but here they give an example of a list of logs. Okay, so you can see that they have the date, the log level, and the log message. Okay, an info, log, debug, and one. And then they're yielding a server sent event, and this time they're saying raw data equals to log line, because it must be received in this same format. Okay, it should not be changed to JSON, or it should not be JSON serialized, which is good. So it says data and raw data are mutually exclusive. You can only set one of them on each server sent event. Awesome. Says resuming with last event ID. When a browser reconnects after a connection drop, it sends the last received ID in the last event ID header. You can read it as a header parameter and use it to resume the stream from where the client left off. Okay, I want to read this again. When a browser reconnects after a connection drop, it sends the last received ID in the last event ID header. You can read it as a header parameter and use it to resume the stream from where the client left off. Of course, this can look like simple text, but it covers so many concepts. Okay, connections, reconnections, IDs, events, parameters. Okay, and all this was covered in that playlist I'm talking about, where I studied FastAPI from the beginning to the end, and this was from scratch. Okay, I had no idea about it. So let's continue, okay, and look at the point of interest. So this is the point of interest. There's this first one, and the second one, and the third. So to know the point of interest, you simply look at what has been highlighted. Okay, so let's look at that ID. So here it says last event ID, okay, has been annotated. Okay, it's an integer or none. Okay, and it's a header. Okay, yeah, so if you don't know what annotated means, what header means, again, check that playlist where I studied FastAPI in its entirety using the documentation. Okay, so yeah, we can see default value of none. Then we go ahead in the first line here in the function, says start equals to last event ID plus 1 if last event ID is not none, else 0. In other words, it is saying for the very first time the event ID will be 0. Otherwise, we keep adding 1 to it. Then it enumerates all the items using this for loop, okay? And then at the end here, it says yield a server sent event, and the data will be equals to item. So this time it's going to be serialized. It will be JSON serialized because of using data. And then the ID will be this ID here, okay, which is this here, this I, okay, and it's being converted to an integer. Sorry, it is being converted from an integer to a string. Yeah, so it's really easy, okay, really easy. And yeah, these browser reconnections, okay, are very important. Okay, so yeah, it's all about playing around with the events. Okay, so make sure that this header is sent, okay, and this is how you capture it in your path operation function. Very easy. Yeah, very easy. I like this. So we continue. It says SSE with post. So these have been get requests. Okay, this is a get. If I continue up, this is also a get, okay, a get. Yeah, that's okay. I feel like I need to read something again. When a browser reconnects after connection drop, it sends the last received ID in the last event ID header. You can read it as a header parameter and use it to resume the stream from where the client left off. Okay, sometimes you can get doubts, okay, in your mind, and it doesn't hurt to read things again. Yeah, that clears it. So I can continue. All right, SSE with post. You're saying SSE works with any HTTP method, not just GET. This is useful for protocols like MCP that stream SSE over post. Okay, yeah, we're in the age of AI, so MCP is a big thing. And by the way, very soon I'm going to start an end-to-end series on AI engineering. Okay, from the basics to building projects. Okay, using AI. So look forward to that. Then, okay, let's continue. All right, this is what we're looking for. It says app.post. Okay, simply showing us that you can use a post method or get like we saw previously, and everything else is the same. Okay, we have an event source response, we have the server sent event as a list. Okay, yeah, what am I saying? I'm trying to say that the annotation here is saying our path operation will return an async iterable, which is a list of server sent events. Okay, yeah. Then what else do we have? Yeah, the rest is the same. They simply pick a prompt. Okay, so prompt, where was prompt picked from? Oh, it's here. It's a base model having text. Okay, so they split the text of the prompt, okay, to get words. Then for every word, they yield a server sent event saying the data is a word and this is serialized. Then the event is called token. Okay, then it says yield server sent event raw data equals to done, event equals to done. Yeah, this is nice. We can move on. Says technical details. FastAPI implements some SSE best practices out of the box. The first one here, it says send a keep alive ping comment every 15 seconds when there hasn't been any message to prevent some proxies from closing the connection as suggested in the HTML specification server sent events. Yeah, this is very good. And in the implementation that you saw me building, that is for those who have watched me build that project. And again, if you're interested, check the description. I'm going to leave a link to it. Okay, I had to do this manually. Okay, I had to build this keep alive logic. It was not so complex, but it was extra work. Okay, but I'm very glad that this is now inbuilt. Okay, that there's going to be a ping comment. Okay, a keep alive comment every 15 seconds to make sure that the connection is kept alive. Okay, so that the connection between the browser or the client and the server is intact. And this comment is only sent when there hasn't been any message from the server to the client, just to keep it alive. Otherwise, without it, you'll find that the connection breaks. Okay, and then when the server has something to send to the client, it will have no connection to use to send that message. So this is something very, very important. Then they say set the cache control, no cache header to prevent caching of the stream. Like in my case, the notifications I was implementing using server sent events were very important, and I wanted every event to show new, fresh data, the latest data. Okay, not something old. Okay, because caching, caching, if you don't invalidate cache, then you might have stale data. Okay, and for things like notifications, I wouldn't want to deal with stale data. So this is also very, very good. And again, those of you who saw me build the application, I had to do this from scratch. But this is now built in, less work for us. It says set a special header X axle buffering, okay, to know. I hope I pronounced this word correctly. Let me know the correct pronunciation in case I've fumbled. It says X axle buffering no to prevent buffering in some proxies like Nginx. Again, I had to do this from scratch. Okay, but this is now inbuilt. So it says you don't have to do anything about it. It works out of the box. This is so cool. Okay, so key takeaways. Number one, it is inbuilt in FastAPI. The first thing you have to do is import event source. Okay, that's a good first step. Not event source, but event source response. Sorry. Okay, and that will be the value of your response class. Okay, then work with Pydantic models. Why? It will be very good to have automatic validation, automatic documentation, and automatic serialization. Okay, make use of the async iterables if you're using an async def definition, or you can still use only the def, and FastAPI will make sure that it doesn't block the event loop. Just use your iterable with your Pydantic base model class. Then, of course, don't forget to yield. Okay, don't forget to yield. Okay, don't return. Return won't work. Then, if you have no explicit return type, okay, FastAPI will use the JSON encoder to help you serialize the data or convert data and send it. Okay, if you want to take advantage of certain keys like event, ID, retry, and comment, use the server sent event in your response. Okay, like so. Yield server sent event, and you can pass data, event, and ID or retry. In the event that you want to send pre-formatted text, simply have your raw data argument specified. Okay, do not use data but use raw data. Then if you want to resume with the last event ID, make sure you specify it in your path operation function. Okay, it's very, very simple. Then you can use any HTTP method, and they have a post method. Okay, so yeah, I thought I would have to maybe use the code in my editor, but yeah, there is no, I see there's no need for it. This looks clean. Okay, I can maybe copy it to clipboard and paste. Okay, I know some of you might be screaming, man, you promised us, why are you not doing it? Okay, there's actually no need for that. Okay, but yeah, this is the sample code that they gave us. But yeah, this is so cool. I'm so happy, and yeah, this is going to make life way easy. I can't wait to refactor my project. So thank you for enjoying this update with me. See you in the next video or live stream.